Welcome to the Geek Saga Podcast series Hot D Takes, covering HBO's House of the Dragon episode by episode. Hi, I'm Tara Lynn of Geek Saga Entertainment, and welcome to Hot D Takes. This podcast series covers HBO's House of the Dragon episode by episode with myself, an avid reader of all things ASWAF, and my friend Manny, a Game of Thrones fan who is unsullied, aka has never read the books, being your stalwart hosts. So first things first, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at A Geek Saga.
And I'm Manny, the aforementioned unsullied co-host, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Manissimo Art. Thanks for joining us for our 7th episode, which will cover episode 7 of House of the Dragon, Driftmark.
As a reminder, expect spoilers from the episode we're covering, but less obvious, there will be very minimal book spoilers from Fire and Blood, which is, of course, the source material for House of the Dragon. We'll start with an episode summary, then cover what we think are the main hot takes from the episode, and conclude with an episode-specific favorites roundup.
We also have a rating system that we will, like true Targaryens, fill in when and where we please, and that system includes rating things on a scale of 1 to 10 Targ eyebrows.
Last but not least, each week we're joined by a special guest. This week it's Nami, a fellow ASWAF fan, a co-host on Geek Saga Entertainment's show Sagas and Sass, and newly appointed Ice and FireCon Small Council member. Nami, where can everyone find you on social media?
Hey guys, you can find me as Nami Sparrow on most things, primarily Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. And if you wish to find me on Twitter, I will be there as Nekonami Cosplay, my handle from ye old days, and all that is shit posts, so please enjoy that.
All right, so we are super excited to have you join us, particularly for this episode. Now, just one last piece of business before we dig in. Don't forget that Geek Saga Entertainment now has a Patreon with 10 tiers ranging from $1 a month to $40 a month. It offers tons of ways to support us and receive some great perks in return, including early access to these Hot D Takes podcast episodes. You can check it out at patreon.com/geeksaga_entertainment.
And now it's time for the long and the short of it, our weekly episode summary.
So, if you've ever been to an awkward family funeral, oh boy, do we have an experience for you. Because while it's time to put one of our favorite ladies, Laena Velaryon, who #deserved better, to rest, gathering the entirety of the Velaryon Targaryen family together, along with allies such as Larry Strong, aka Limplefinger, newly minted Lord of Harrenhal, and the ever-present Sir Cole of House Slaw. And none other than good old Otto, reprising his role as the Hand of the King. Doesn't bode well. And wow, does everyone involved have a hard time minding their dang manners right from the very start of poor Laena's funeral. First off, we got Sir Vaemon Velaryon, who makes a comment about the strength of Velaryon blood that is obviously named at Rhaenyra and her children, and Daemon has an aggressive giggle over said comment. Then Laenor understandably goes off to cry in the ocean over his sister's death. #valid. Jace also complains about it being at Driftmark instead of Harrenhal because he misses his real dad, and he totally doesn't know this, but he totally knows this. Larry's Limplefinger is creepily eyeing Alicent. Aegon gets super heckin' drunk. Helena is busy acting out some sort of Spider-Girl dream or I don't know, Charlotte's Web with her creepy crawlers. Corlys, for some reason, decides it's a good time to remind Luke that he will be Lord of Driftmark one day. Yikes. Rhaenyra spends most of her time stalking Daemon from the edge of the crowd. And Viserys decides to go to bed, and he calls Alicent Emma in what was probably the best line of this whole show. All right, listen, it's all sorts of awkward all the way around, and honestly a huge relief when the gathering ends and everyone goes to bed. Though, thankfully, not before Daemon gets in one good jab on good old Otto. Except as it turns out, despite all of these people saying that they're going to bed, many of them don't. First up is Corlys and Rhaenys, who have a bit of an argument over the Driftmark succession because, well, as Rhaenys points out, Rhaenyra's sons aren't actually Velaryons, and therefore the seat should pass to Laena's eldest daughter, Baela. Granted, this would absolutely look like yet another show of mistrust in the boy's parentage, and while Rhaenys shrugs this off, Corlys persists in his mindset, stating that history doesn't remember blood, it remembers names. Huh, rather progressive of him. Interesting. In the meantime, Rhaenyra is taking another walk on the beach, but one that will end up a lot sexier than the one she took with Laenor all those years ago. Because this time they both fancy complimentary meat. Because this time she's with Daemon, and after some back and forth about their woes and wins in marriage, they spend what seems to be the required 35 and a half minutes slowly taking off their clothes before finally having the sex. In the words of everyone not involved, these people are disgusting.
Anywho, while the rest of his relatives are sleeping, arguing, off hooking up with each other, Aemond has been eyeing Vhagar all day and has now snuck off to claim her. The whole situation has to make you question his brother and nephews poking fun at him for not having a dragon. Because sure, there's a little bit of hemming and having and hesitation on Aemon's part here. But also, this is freaking Vhagar. And in the end, he is able to calm her and have a very triumphant dragon ride. Though, come on now, lol, sigh at him. Literally telling this she-dragon to calm down because that's what Likiri means in High Valyrian. Now, of course, everything that was going on at the actual funeral led to a buildup of already existing tensions. But it's Bela and Rhaena waking up to discover that someone is, quote, stealing, unquote, Vhagar that really shakes things up because Rhaena has grown up without a dragon of her own so far, and she wanted to claim Vhagar for herself. So the twins wake up their cousins, Jace and Luke, and they all run to confront Aemon, a confrontation that, not surprisingly, turns violent when Aemon suggests that the boys give Rhaena a pig to ride. The sisters then technically shove off the physical altercation, but the boys escalate it when Aemon gets pretty violent with the girls. Aemon seems to be coming out on top after he breaks Luke's nose, starts harping on his nephew's parentage, then threatens to bash each other's heads in with a rock. But in the end, it isn't Aemon who exerts any lasting physical damage, but Luke, who scoops up the knife his brother dropped and slices up Aemon's eye. However, if you thought this was bad, just wait until the parents gather to deal with it, which they do right away, in a scene that is in some ways reminiscent of the late night gathering of Arya's fight with Joffrey in season 1 of Game of Thrones, with a lot more emotion on the part of the adults. Viserys wants to know who was watching the kids, and while I hate to admit that our resident 4chan member Kristen is right, why would they have thought to guard the children against each other in the dead of night? Meanwhile, Alicent screams at and beats on Aegon because why not? Clearly, him getting drunk at a funeral means the entire situation is all his fault. Massive eye roll, everyone. Frustratingly, the whole story about what happens never really comes out, as the whole thing is blamed on Aemon spouting off about his nephew's lineage and Aegon taking the fall for Alicent by not arguing with the eyeballs that blame him and then stating that everyone knows Jace and Luke are bastards.
Now, Viserys being Viserys, his solution, such as it is to threaten anyone who keeps spreading this rumor with a prompt tongue removal, and to then demand that the children apologize to each other and stop fighting. But Alicent, being this Alicent that she morphed into during the 10-year time skip, she insists on taking matters into her own hand, first demanding that Viserys actually do something about what happened, an eye for an eye, literally, and then, when he refuses, ordering Criston Cole to do it for her. However, while Sir Cole of House Slaw might be sworn to Alicent, he's still a knight of the King's Guard, and it's clear that he isn't going to obey her either. At this point, Alicent completely loses it and straight up rips the dagger, yes, that dagger, from Viserys' sheath and rushes at Rhaenyra's children. Another tussle ensues when Rhaenyra blocks her, and Alicent only comes to her senses, such as they are, when she ends up slicing open Rhaenyra's arm. That poor dagger really has been through a lot, hasn't it? So everyone finally disperses, even though nothing is really resolved. Although Aemond at least doesn't seem too upset, counting the exchange of an eye for a dragon, and Vhagar at that, an even exchange. Something that good Olato agrees with when he confronts Alicent about her actions. Actions that he in fact approves of because he didn't think she had it in her. Needless to say, guess who's not in the running for Father of the Year award? Okay, so obviously it's Otto. Though when Lenore finally does show up and find out about what happened, he is chastised as well, at least by himself, and tells Rhaenyra that his friend, who is a boy, Carl, is off to the Stepstones soon anyway. And so he, Lenore, will be recommitting himself to their marriage. However, while Allison is plotting out her next moves with the all too present help of Laris Limplefinger, Rhaenyra isn't just sitting back to see what happens next either. She straight up proposes marriage to Damon, even though she knows this can only happen if Lenore dies, which, whoa there, slow your roll, guys, right? Only despite it seeming as if Damon is paying off Carl to murder Lenore, he in fact assists Carl and Lenore in staging a duel that only makes it look as if Lenore has died. Sadly, this leaves Corlys and Rhaenys mourning the supposed loss of their only remaining child. But of course, it also allows Rhaenyra to have another shotgun wedding. This time to the man she clearly always wanted in the first place, her uncle. Ew, Damon. Hey, at least Lenore gets to sail off across the narrow sea with Carl, hopefully to live out a life free from this never-ending Westerosi Game of Thrones. So, hot take number 1, a funeral for all ages? Or a funeral for the ages? I'm not sure which fits better. I think they're kind of both equally apt. It started off beautiful and sad and continued that way for like a couple minutes up until the drama started. That's some graveyard at the bottom of the sea right there outside of Driftmark.
Right? There was a moment where like I saw the casket, the water casket, like just like falling down, and I'm like, it's gonna fall into a mountain of bodies. Yep, there it is.
Yeah.
Found it.
I was watching it and I got distracted because for some reason when I saw the casket, I thought it was wood for a minute. And I was like, man, don't put that. It's just gonna wash up back on shore, and then there's gonna be a dead body just kind of hanging out there. And it's, you know, you don't want to do when it sank. I had the same feeling where I was like, okay, there's probably a mountain of bodies here, and in the next few hundred years, it's gonna start coming out of the water.
Whoa. I hope they sealed those like real well. Granted, this isn't drinking water,
Yeah.
but after the beautiful and sad sliding of Lena's very beautifully carved casket coffin, whatever, into the sea, it deteriorated pretty quickly. But first, we needed that shot of good old Otto stroking his hand.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
God, the worst.
Like he was gonna have an orgasm right there, just touching it. He's just like, oh my God, I love the hand of the king on me.
It's the only thing he cares about.
He really Manny, all he really needed to get it done was the king's hand on him.
Oh God,
that was it. Oh.
Terrible. I'm sorry, I had to say it.
I give that joke 8 out of 10 Targ eyebrows, but I give Otto's sexual stroking of his hand of the kingpin 1 out of 10 eyebrows, only because
it was his fucking creepy face also. And it was just everything. It was the whole package. It's like, oh, you know, like, dude.
And like, if that wasn't creepy enough, I know why Damon giggled, right? But it was so inappropriate. I know he giggled because of the comment that Vaymond made about Rhaenyra's kids, but dude, hold it in a minute.
Have I ever expected Damon to be appropriate? Because I feel like that might have been the first mistake there. Like I came into this episode once again being like, oh, I wonder what crimes Damon is going to commit this week, and turns out the horriblest one of them all was snickering at his wife's funeral.
I mean, he wasn't wearing a black hoodie at the time, so I thought maybe he could hold his shit together for like his daughters for half a second. I don't know.
I will say this, Damon is one of those friends that I always have that when I'm in a situation and it's not funny and they start doing something like that, they're the person that I have to look at from across the room and be like, yeah, like they have no concept of that. And it's just like, dude, I used to do it. Like my brother was a stand-up comedian, right? And he would get really dark on stage. And I would always stand in the back of the room, standing up, not sitting down. And the second he started getting dark, I'm like, and then he would like stop. You know, it's like, dude. So that's what Damon reminds me. He's just like one of those people.
And then after Damon giggling, we get Jace being mad that they aren't at Harrenhal. because he does know who his daddy is. I mean, Rhaenyra has never straight up said, yes, you're right, but he knows. And she's just like, go comfort your cousins. We have to be here. Whatever. We can't be there. This is family. That isn't. Go comfort your cousins. So he tries, sort of. Like he approaches them, and it's clear that he's just being an awkward little boy, like not knowing what to do. And one of them,
So I'm pretty sure it was meant to be Bela.
Bela,
Because
okay,
Bela's the one who ends up engaged to him. So I think that was kind of like what they were
yeah,
playing with there.
yeah. And she just grabs his hand, and part of me wonders if she grabbed his hand, not just because she needed the comfort, but because she knew maybe partly that he didn't know what to do, but also maybe partly she knows that he also lost someone, maybe.
I don't think she's that aware. Because
Okay. They have been in Essos, so
yeah, I was gonna say they've been in Essos. Also, they're like maybe 10 maximum, maybe 12. And like you pay attention and like you know that like, okay, my cousins don't look like me. This is pretty sus. So they definitely have a different dad. But I doubt she knows the further gossip of who that different dad was and oh my god, he just died. Because that's like a lot of steps for a 12-year-old. I
yeah.
doubt the girls really know anything about their family at home, and they're just like, we have a surprise grandma and grandpa. Whoa, we have cousins. Why are they white? Okay.
I mean, the hand holding was cute. I have a feeling based on what happened in this episode, they will realize more sooner rather than later, but it was cute. And then Corliss, seriously, now is not the time to talk to your very young grandson about how he gets to be Lord of Driftmark right one day.
But literally Luke turning around and being like, I don't want it. Everyone will be dead. I'm like, snaps to you. Like, tell your grandpa to shut up and be appropriate. Like,
Yep.
like, good for you, little guy.
It was the more understandable version of Jon Snow's I don't want it.
All I can think of is the no, yes meme, except it's Jon Snow, I don't want it, no, and then it's little Luke being like, I don't want it, and us being like, yes.
I don't know, just everybody was so inappropriate at this funeral. Like, really, Corliss? Come on, you're better than this, I thought. I hoped. I don't know.
What is even appropriate anymore? Like, oh god. That's what Game of Thrones does to me. I'm like, what are morals? They're just kind of like wibbly wobbly. Like, plus it's Matt Damon. It's like, what are morals? Just a ball of wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff.
Wait, Matt
Exactly.
Damon?
Matt Damon.
Matt
Jesus.
I
I
was
was
like,
just say Matt as Damon.
I was like, Matt
How did
Damon.
now
Holy
from-
shit, he did great. I didn't even notice him there.
From now on, Damon will be Matt Damon.
There you go. For me, I really connected with this entire funeral scene because as a little Cuban boy growing up, there was many funerals that I've been to, and there was always some weird shit going on like that. Somebody would say something, and we're just like, man, what the fuck? And a fight would break out later in the night, and then somebody would be inappropriate, and somebody would say some shit like, yeah, she was hot when she was alive, like weird shit like that, And so to me, there was something about, I don't know, I hate to say it, but I kind of felt like I was at home during that funeral.
Manny, how kind of funerals have you been to? I've got so many concerns.
Oh, I've been through a lot. I had a big family when I was young, but they were all really old, It wasn't like tragic. They were just older people, so.
My maternal grandmother passed away in 2017. It's the first grandparent I ever had who passed away. My other 3 grandparents are still alive. I'm very lucky in that. But my maternal grandmother's funeral was awkward because the family had been very much at odds with each other. My mother has an older brother and an older sister and a younger sister. And I get her younger sister, my sisters and I get along with those cousins. The rest of us don't talk, pretty much. Particularly to me, because when the drama started, I was already 18 or 19 years old, and I was like, fuck you guys. I literally contacted my mom's older brother and sister and told them to fuck off, that they were being assholes. And then there was this whole like, Tara doesn't respect her elders. And I was like, maybe stop being assholes and I'll respect you.
Yeah.
But the difference is, from your family, we're a bunch of wasps. So our version of an awkward funeral is all just like standing in opposite corners of the room and having as little interaction with each other as possible. And there's no drama per se. It's just awkward in that, oh, these people obviously all don't like each other, from all the people who are there extraneously, like extended family members or friends of the family or whatever. So yeah, I get what happened here, but I'm also on the waspy side of things where it's like, come on, y'all, control yourselves.
I always go by the point of view of like, grief makes people a little bit insane. And like, this family's already a lot of insane. So put all that together and you just get a whole ass heckin' mess. Because when I think about what my family would do, there's a certain member of my family who, no matter what sort of damage control someone may or may not try to do, he will always pick a fight with a certain other member of his wife's side of the family, to the point where one time he spent 2 hours following him around and heckling him effectively. And we were all just like watching this like, is this real? Is this really happening?
Meanwhile, we've got all these people causing these like minor cases of drama. Sometimes more, sometimes not so minor. I mean, literally, Damon giggling. Everybody was just like, "The fuck, dude."
I wasn't surprised, honestly. Like, it happened, and I was like, I mean, you guys invited him. What did you think was gonna happen? You know, like, did you think he was just gonna sit there? You know, like, come on.
I think the funniest thing was, at that point, my brain thought was, who even let him in? And then I was like, oh yeah, this is his wife.
Exactly.
You don't even go here. Oh shit.
Oh shit, he like goes here the most.
Yeah, it's like you're able to get into this funeral on a technicality, you know, because you happen to be married to the person who's dead. You know.
You're lucky she thought you were cute.
Exactly.
So I do have a question though. What the fuck was Helena doing with that spider? Listen, I know in the text that she is described as like a little bit off, but the show, I feel, is making her a lot more quote unquote off than she was ever described in the book. I mean, I just reread Fire and Blood and I double checked the wiki to make sure I wasn't missing anything major. And yeah, she was she didn't super belong. She wasn't this much of a black sheep. What was she doing with that spider? I feel like they're relegating her to patch face territory at this rate, because she's constantly making these odd little comments that, I mean, she said the thing about Eamon's eye in the last episode when he came to complain to his mother about the pig thing, you know, and not having a dragon. And it's like, what are we trying to do here?
I think they're trying to push her in a Danny's the Dreamer sort of route. Because, like, the whole thing is that, you know, she dreamed the fall of Valyria, and it's the reason her father brought the Targaryens to Westeros. So I think they're sort of doing the same thing with Helena, and sort of doing like oh, she's weird because she's got connection to magic and she can't help it. Whereas I'm just like, let the bug girl vibe. Like, you don't need to make her a prophetic bug girl. Just let her hang out with bugs. Like, she's having a good time. Just let her play with spiders.
I really need to try to figure out a way to create a meme of Helena playing with a creepy crawlers machine.
Oh my god.
That might be the meme I make for this episode, even though it's like the least of the least things that happened in
that gives it the most impact, though. Like, Helena a lot. I just enjoy her. She's just a weirdo being a weirdo, and I'm just here for that.
Yeah, you gotta appreciate that.
We're here for cute girls who like weird shit. I feel like Helena should team up with the pig that should have been Aemon's dragon, and they should do a Charlotte's Web reenactment.
I don't disagree.
I just Game of Thrones style.
Helena's Web. Oh my god. One more thing about the funeral before we go on to the next hot take. I just want to say thank you, Damon, for getting that one cut in on Otto. because Otto kind of tries to say hi to him, or maybe he tries to give his condolences, and Damon's like, no matter how fat the leech grows, it's always ready for another meal. And I was just like,
Man, again, it's like this is like my love-hate relationship with Damon, right? Because he is like my favorite character of this show so far. And it's not because I agree with the things he does, but the way he does things is just fucking powerful. Like he's someone who's like loud and out of control, but bro, when that guy says like he did this line just very calm and just like whatever, I'm like, that's fucking powerful. Like I love that, dude.
We
I mean,
love it when a lad knows his dramatic timing, and Damon certainly does.
he
Although
does.
sometimes he does giggle in the middle of funerals, and I guess you win some, you lose some.
He's just like one of these chaotic personalities where it's like, you know, yeah, you don't agree with him, but every now and then he fucking says something or does something where you're like, fuck, yeah, I mean, I hate that I fucking agree with you. But yeah, like fucking agree with you. Like his kind of outlook on fucking life, where it's just like fuck this bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Like everyone is they all compartmentalized in these little fucking they're like little puppets, and he's just like fuck that shit. I'm gonna go fucking to the whorehouse or whatever the fuck, and do my own shit. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna go cut fucking Crab Man in half. I'll be right back. Like just shit like that, where it's like, like you gotta respect that shit, man. Because it's not like there's a lot of people that I know that they admire power, right? People who are fucking powerful, but Damon is not fucking powerful. He's not. And not intimidating. The guy's he looks like 80 pounds soaking wet. You know what I'm saying? But there's just something that he's like, he's not like a blunt fucking instrument, right? Like I find Damon, like to me, I find Damon more terrifying than I would like the Mountain, right? Because the Mountain is just okay. You're just a fucking meathead, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, sure, you can bash me over the head with something, but with like Damon, it's like he's like a surgical blade, right? Like he's not gonna make a mess, but he's gonna get the job done. Like I don't know, it's different.
I would like to posit that Damon is, in fact, both a meathead and a surgical blade, and you don't know which one you're going to get.
That is very true. Yeah, that is true. That is absolutely
and you do
true.
not know which Damon will emerge. Sometimes it might be sassy Damon, who calls Otto a leech and fucking like YOLOs it out of there. Sometimes it's I'm a family man Damon, who's like who's like, hey, my brother's weak, and I'm not saying this to be a dick, but I'm saying this because I want to protect him. And then sometimes it's just Angie Damon, and he's like, Viserys wants to help me, so I'm gonna die. And I think that's why we like him, because he's all of our crackhead instincts to what if we just did the first thing that popped up in my head? And that is what Damon is. Also, I think the other reason we enjoy Damon is because we don't expect him to be good. We expect him to be awful, but exciting about it.
That is something that we'll touch on at the end of the episode. But for now, hot take number 2, think of the children! AKA, will no one listen to Rhaenys like ever? So,
God, poor Rhaenys. Like,
Rhaenys calling out Corlys for still pursuing the crown through his children when she gave up caring about it long ago. I feel you, girl. I feel you. But also, to be fair, Corlys is right in that if they announced Driftmark passing to Bela, no matter how they played it, people would side-eye the choice as having something to do with Rhaenyra's son's parentage. It's something we have touched on in past episodes because Rhaenys is bringing hot takes on her own. And like, honestly, 10 out of 10 Targ eyebrows for her constant just, I'm not keeping my mouth shut. I'm telling you what I feel, hubby.
Yeah.
But nobody ever listens to her. And in this situation, it's like, I both understand what she wants and is trying to get at. And also I'm like, but I don't know that would be the best course of action, but also it would possibly protect your granddaughters when you're seeing, you're looking at this both from the outside and from the inside, right? And you're seeing that there's no way you can really protect your grandsons at this point. Grandsons, quote unquote.
It's one of those things that I feel like this might actually be the first time, at least in regards to wanting Bella to inherit, that Rhaenys is fully wrong. And like, so like, you know, if this was later on in the story, so no spoilers there, but if shit is already hitting the fan and people are actively infighting and she wanted this.
They're not. Oh, I was gonna say they are actively infighting, but that happens slightly later in the episode, I guess.
Yeah, but like if that had already happened and maybe she was like this, maybe I could see it more. But like, she's not. There isn't enough conflict. There isn't enough actual no, if that makes sense. Like, because anything that she did, which was like pro Bella inheriting, would be effectively disinheriting her grandsons, and like she knows that. And I think this is the first time she is actively wrong and selfish, and I kind of love to see that for her. Because, like, in a way, this was sort of like a full circle moment from her, coming like from her being like, I stopped caring about my power and like being the queen, but I'm going to be selfish about my granddaughters here. And I enjoyed how incredibly wrong she was, if that makes sense.
I mean, she's just awesome. There's nothing I can really add to that, you know?
And so incredibly sad that she didn't have her white hair with her one Targaryen streak from the books. Black hair.
Yeah, black hair with the one Targaryen streak for Rhaenys would have.
That'd be awesome.
And it also would have made a little bit more sense. I think, Nami, you said this in our pre-episode chat, for the kids. Like, it would have made it a little less obvious.
Yeah, it would have made the kids make like 2% more sense, but like they still don't. But like, that's fine. But like, it would have also. It does lore break for us in terms of the Baratheon seed is strong, because the whole reason she has dark hair is because she is half Baratheon. And then one of the reasons that like Jon Arryn in Ye Old Game of Thrones is the one who's like, the seed is strong, is because he looks at Rhaenys as an example and he's like, wow, Baratheon blood even overpowered the Targaryen blood. How suspicious. And just... But apparently, all you need to do to overpower the Targaryen blonde is be strong.
The seed is strong, would you say?
I would say.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Hot take number 3. The incest we've all, or maybe just Rhaenyra's, been waiting for. There's a lot that goes into this, right? There's the whole conversation between Daemon and Rhaenyra on the beach, where Rhaenyra is telling him that she and Laenor did try for kids, but to no avail. She says there was no joy in it. And I'm wondering if by her saying there was no joy in it, if she is sort of kindly putting it on Laenor not being interested and therefore not being able to truly consummate. That's just me positing something. There being no joy in it. I don't know, Rhaenyra, are you trying to say that it wasn't enjoyed by the person who it was necessary for it to be enjoyed by, for there to be children produced? I don't know.
Do we curse on this show? Do we?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, cool. Because I had 3 seconds of like you inching around that, and I'm like, is this for comedy's sake, or is this for like?
No, it's for comedy.
Okay, cool. Because my whole thought was like, yeah, she was like, yeah, he can't get it up.
Yeah.
That was what I heard, and also at the same time, I'm like, listen, girl, everyone looks the same from the back. Y'all could have tried harder.
You know, I agree with that 100%, man. You know, you have to be a special person to at least not enjoy some of it. You know, I mean, come on.
No, but I mean, like, if you are not into a specific gender, if that is not your inclination, like, sometimes people just can't. Like, that is how it is. If that's what she's saying, like, totally get it. But also, I feel like, I don't know, the fear of fully ruining the legacy of your queendom might, I don't know, drive you guys to figure out a compromise or some way to get around it. Like, come on.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It seems like I do find it interesting that they're like, yeah, we tried, but like it sucked. But it also just sort of seems like also a little bit like kids not really knowing what they're doing and then just sort of phoning it in. Because I don't know, man, Goose and Duck, like, ugh. Goose and duck. Difficult.
So the other thing I wanted to ask about Rhaenyra specifically was, do you guys think she was just curious about Daemon's relationship with Laena, or is she jealous? Because she asks Daemon, did you love her? And he says, we are happy enough. And, she says, well, that in and of itself is a great achievement. But the question, asking that question, the way it was posited, it makes me wonder, specifically because of what happens next, whether she was kind of hoping that he would say no.
I feel like it was definitely a cross between the two. I think it probably was a curiosity thing, but there's definitely like a jealousy thing there, because she really got upset when she was talking to him and like, you left me all these years ago and look at my life and all this kind of shit. I think there was definitely some bitter jealousy going on there.
I don't know if I would even say it was jealousy, though. I thought it was more bitterness than jealousy, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know that she was specifically jealous that Daemon got married, because the whole time she knew Daemon, he was married. Like, I don't think that was like a weird thing for her. I think her whole thing was feeling abandoned and feeling uncared for, and like Daemon had become such a rock for her, despite how little we see, but like that is what had happened. And so when he basically leaves her just as she enters this wedding, and she expects him to stay around, even though why she expects that when all he does is leave is I don't know. But I don't really know that I read that as jealousy. I read it as curiosity with a shit ton of bitterness. Also, I think the other thing is that I don't know that Rhaenyra has the depth to feel jealous, if this makes sense. And I say this in a very specific way because I don't think it even occurs to her that like it would matter that he cared about Laena too, because she's like, I'm the one who's here now. She strikes me as like that kind of practical type of person. Mm-hmm. And I think for her, it's just the bitterness that he was gone in the first place, but he's back now, so who cares?
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that, definitely.
Well, ew, though.
Oh, yeah, in the end, ew, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Dean, when we were watching this, Dean, he must have said it at least 3 times. These people are disgusting. It was probably more than that. So they, Rhaenyra just makes a move, kisses Unky Damon over here, Unky Matt Damon, and ew. And then they have their sex scene. This show really likes these sex scenes where they show them taking off every piece of clothing very slowly. I'm not complaining because I feel like both times this has happened, it has been really beautifully shot. It has shown that both of the people who were involved it was consensual, they were interested in each other, etc. But I still think it's very funny because, my God, if you're just very slowly stripping off each piece of clothing in the first scene with Rhaenyra and Kristen, where she is all hot and bothered, and I don't think he's necessarily thought about it all that much, but has also been celibate for a long time. And then in this case, Rhaenyra and Daemon have both wanted each other for a long time, right? And they're just like, let me peel off my stockings. Let me unlace this little bit and this other little bit. And listen, it's historically accurate in terms of clothing. I get that. And again, not complaining because I do think they've been very beautifully shot, but it's also just funny. By the time you get through all that clothing,
I actually thought it made sense with the crispy rat scene because crisp coleslaw. Have you ever tried to like take off a lot of armor at once? Because it does not happen fast. It does take that long. It is yikes. Like if you got armor and you want to fuck, like you're not fucking for another hour. Like relax, bud. Yep. But like in this one, to me, the slowness in this scene made it feel more intimate than the crisp scene. Because even though they were slow in that scene, it read slowness because armor takes a long time to take off. And this read slowness because we want to be slow with each other. That was like where I got the difference there. Also, it's very obvious that men did not direct these scenes.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. As somebody who has had a couple situations where I waited a long time for that first thing to happen, I didn't want it to be slow, right? Obviously, in future instances, yeah, sure, it can be super sexy. But man, that first time, no. I'm not even wearing underwear to that, okay?
Yeah. I think with like number one, if I lived in Westeros, like I'm never having sex. Like, look, if I have to put this stuff on and I got to take it off, and like the first thing I thought about was that when like Rhaenyra woke up in the sand, I'm like, girl, who's gonna tie the back part of your dress? Like
That was my thought too.
I was like, how are you gonna do that? Like, oh my god, and like you have to go through. Like, I will say this. Look, again, this show, what it's doing for me, number one, because like I'm not a fan of like sex scenes and all this kind of bullshit. Like, it's cool when it's like in context, but there's just like a lot of scenes where I'm just like in the original Game of Thrones, where I'm like, you know what, man, fuck. Like, okay, I get it. All right, here's titties. Okay, great, keep going. Like, whatever. What happens next, right? So I really feel they do a really great job. Like the undressing scene, there's like an anticipation there that I think is just done very well. And again, the fact that they don't show a lot also is what I feel this show gets so much better than 99% of the shows that I watch. It's that it just uses a very minimal amount to get your brain going. That's it. Your brain finishes it. It's just letting you know the clothes are coming off and they're gonna have sex. You don't have to be like super like gratuitous about it if it's not like story driven or anything like that. And I just think they just do such a good job with so little. They just give you a little bit and they let your brain do the work.
In a way, I also extra like the contrast between the scenes that Rhaenyra has had when she has been the one having sex versus the scene that Alicent had when she was the one having sex versus the scenes in the whorehouses with Daemon. You can tell every single time, like the different vibes, the different consent levels, the different level of freedom of the people involved in everything. And it's very good storytelling with something that could just be, hey, look, titties, like it was in Game of Thrones. So it's like they actually made the sex scene serve a purpose now, which is great. Also, when Rhaenyra sits up and you don't see Daemon in the scene for the second, I'm like, dude just did not just leave her in the sand because he will not be able to lace that dress back up. That was my main concern. I was like not even worried that he might have just left her like one night stand style. I was like, no, he has to lace up her dress.
I'm like a big clothes guy, right? I am just really into clothes, and that was like the first thing that I thought about. I was like, you're right, same thing, not the fact that she was just abandoned there. I'm just like, girl, how you gonna get that tied back up again? Like, you're out there by yourself,
The thing that stuck out to me the most this scene was actually like the fact that like they get it on without fully taking her dress off, because I'm like, there's no way they're getting it back off. They know that. This is practical. The other thing with Daemon and Rhaenyra is that I am so used to like, the extra incest hate of like Cersei and Jaime that this is like weirdly wholesome by comparison. And I say that with incredible concern because it still involves incest and grooming. And I'm like, yes, it's more wholesome than twin incest and attempted child murder.
It's really wild. It's really wild to watch, because there's scenes when they're taking off each other's clothes. It's so like sensual and gentle. I wouldn't even say it's even so much sensual because it's not really sexy. It's just very lovingly,
Yes, it's very loving.
And I think that's problematic for me, because it's like, it's like, that's really sweet and all that you're doing that shit and you're fucking being all nice and like, but in the end, bro, like, come on.
Shot in a way that's like encouraging me to ship it, and then my brain is going, no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you kind of like you kind of get lost when you're watching it. You're like, wait, no, ew, stop, no, gross. Like, what are you doing?
This whole episode was me being like, oh my god, she's getting her man. Wait, her man's her uncle who groomed her. Oh my god, it's happening. Wait, no, he specifically ran away so he wouldn't sleep with his teenage niece. This isn't cute. Wait, oh my god, they're together. They're getting married. Wait, this is incredibly fucked up.
Yep, exactly.
The emotional whiplash of Daemon and Rhaenyra is something that I will always enjoy and just sort of stare blankly at with concern, because remember when we had morals before Game of Thrones?
Oh, Lord. All right, hot take number 4. Apparently it's okay to tell someone to calm down if you do it in High Valyrian. But I will give Aemon this. He has some balls.
The most gigantic balls.
Yeah. As I'm watching this scene last night, I was like, what is he saying? Now, some things were obvious when he tells her to fly, right? I don't know for sure what Daharis means, but I think it means like obey or listen. But Likiri was a new word, and I was like, what does that mean? So I looked it up, and yes, it literally means calm down. And lol, you are telling this girl, Vagar, this hundreds-year-old dragon, to calm down. Oh, boy. I respect your balls.
The other thing to know, Manny, so this is like significant for like the history of the show, but Vagar is the oldest living dragon, and it was also the dragon that was used in the original Conquest. So it was the one of 3 dragons that Aegon and his 2 sisters rode, and then they were like, fuck you, Westeros, we rule you now. And so like his warrior sister queen rode this dragon. This dragon is the last living dragon that old. The other dragon that old just died. This dragon was Balerion the Black Dread. Viserys basically rode this dragon like twice around King's Landing, and then he was like, all right, I'm worried he's going to fall asleep while I'm riding. So like, we done. So that's why Viserys doesn't have a dragon, because he technically had the biggest boy. This kid getting Vagar is a really fucking big deal, because Vagar, she old and she don't take nobody's shit.
Yeah, okay.
Because she was specifically the like legendary warrior queen, Targaryen's dragon. She's the big boss.
Gotcha.
So I also found out, like, while looking through like miscellaneous shit posts today, that apparently there was a scene with baby Lena in episode 2 claiming Vagar. And I'm like so grumpy that they didn't give her that scene, because it makes Aemon seem more like a big deal. But I'm like, a 6-year-old girl did it. So like, get off your high horse, bud.
Yeah.
My salt towards this child is high. It's also because they cast him very perfectly, and he just has a very punchable face. Or one would say, stabbable face.
Yes.
But that said, before we get into that, the dragon riding scene was too cute for this show, to be honest.
Oh my god, it was so adorable. He does his little like whoop of joy, and I'm like, oh! And then 3 seconds later, I'm like, did you just all over fucking Aemon? Just stop it.
That scene, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, that scene kind of pulled me out of the show, like out of the scene. Like, it was cool, but it was like a little too never-ending story for me. You know what I'm saying?
It was a little too happy for Game of Thrones.
Yeah, like I was kind of hoping it would. I don't know, man. Look, but whatever. I didn't write the show. I'm not a director. Let them do their job. Honestly, the scene just felt a little. It felt a little Disney to me. Like, I just felt like I was. Oh, this is like when I watched it, I was like, this is something that I know that I could see in some live action Disney show about dragons or something like that. Like I had mentioned, like in a few episodes prior or whatnot, was that was my biggest worry about with them having so many dragons on the show, is that it's like the cat's out of the bag now. When the dragons came out in Game of Thrones, it was a huge ordeal, and it was like, holy shit, here we go, right? Like, it's fucking crazy. But now it's like, man, everyone's fucking got a dragon. I got my dragon parked over here. I got the fucking meter going with my dragon over here. What kind of dragon did you get this year? Did you upgrade? You know what I'm saying? So it's like part of the magic for me is like, not that they're doing it bad. They are doing it good. And again, I am just being like a nitpicky little bitch here. Although they did do the good opening scene with that one, right? The old dragon, he's trying to grab it. Like, I thought that was cool. But again, it just reminded me of something that I would have seen like in in some kind of Disney fairy tale story or something like that. There was a little bit of a disconnect for me there. It wasn't a bad scene at all. I'm not gonna shit on them for that. It wasn't a bad scene, but just for me personally, because I'm being nitpicky little bitch.
I mean, I will say it was incongruously happy, which, in fairness, for Aemon, it was absurdly happy. That's the happiest that child has ever been, and the happiest he ever will be. So in a way, highly effective. Listen, child, you get one joy, and this is it. Congrats.
This is it. That's
it's
it.
Gone.
Yeah, he does get that one joy, because hot take number 5, it's all fun and games till somebody loses an eye.
Oof.
I really love what they did with this situation, right? As soon as the twins went to wake up Jason Luke and were like, somebody stole Vagar, I was like, oh, this is going to be different, I think. In Fire and Blood, it's very vague, but it's kind of described Rhaenyra's boys attacked Aemond for taking Vagar almost without provocation, because this isn't their dragon, right? They both have dragons. Why would they do this? So It was very interesting that they brought the girls into it to this extent. They had more agency in the whole kerfluffle. But also, what the fuck, Eamon, shoving and hitting a girl and acting like he's going to bash his nephew's heads in with a rock? Too far with the bastard comments? Whoa, dude.
You know, it's one of those things where, like, this whole time we've seen that, like, Aegon's kind of, like, Aegon just wants to masturbate out a window, and Aemon's, like, a shithead. Like, we've seen that this whole time. Like, Aemond is kind of the dicky one. And low-key, I'm gonna say it now, because I have to say it, he's got Severus Snape complex, you know? He's been bullied, and he's like, now I can do what I want because I was bullied. And it's like, no, bitch, sit down. But, like, it wasn't even the fact that, like, he shoved Rhaena. He shoves Rhaena when she's like, that was supposed to be my dragon. I was going to claim her. And so, like, he shoves her, and I'm like, yep, that tracks. And then when Bela, like, shoves him and he punches her back, I'm like, yep, this also tracks. The part where he picks up the rock, though, I'm like, kid, are you really about to do a murder? But I think the other thing, though, is that, like, us reading into it, we can read into it as much as we want, but, like, when you're a kid in a fight, you don't think, oh, this rock's gonna kill this kid. You think, I will hurt him more. And so Luke isn't going in there when he picks up the knife like, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to stab his eye out. I'm going to maim him. He's like, I'm going to hurt him more. And that's what he's doing when he's picking up the rock. Like he's a little shit. That's obviously correct. But kids are pretty savage when they get down to it. And the other thing is that the reason kids are savage is because they often don't know the limit that, like, many adults would stop at. If it was Kristen Cole picking up that rock, I would have been like, that dick wants to do a murder. But when Aemond picks up that rock, to me, it was like, his bullies are bullying him back, and he's like, I'm gonna hurt them more. As terrible as it sounds, as much as I hate that little shit of a child, because I do not like him. I want to shake him. He also looks like an inbred Draco Malfoy, and that makes me wish to shake him even more. And I say that very kindly, because I'm sure the actor is a perfectly cute little boy. However, with the blonde hair, that is the look. And I apologize to this child for shitting on him like this. But all of it together, as much as I want to be like, he was there with, like, malicious intent, he's like a solid, 12 to 15, and he's confronting his childhood bully. Like, he's not thinking that hard. He is angry. He found Big Rock. He can get bully back.
Being like a dude, and when I was little, I can definitely attest to that like we didn't know any limits back then. It's not like we were trying to kill each other. It's just that we just wanted to hurt them more than they were hurting us. And we're also raised to, like, be like that, right? You're raised to, like, fight back and to be more powerful than the other people and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, that's how I saw it. I don't think he was, like, legitimately trying to, like, kill these people. He just wanted to fuck him up, pretty much, and he fucked around and found out. In the end, it's like, look, bro, that's just like the rules of the street, right? You can come at with all that good shit, you know what I'm saying? But when you get fucking stabbed or gutted or something, it's like, look, dude, you asked for that shit. You know, you started it. You walk into a fight, and that's why I think growing up, I always avoided fights, because I'd seen so many, and I'm like, look, dude, you never know what you're getting into, and you think you're going to be tough, and the next thing you know, you're going to be eating some lead or, like, you know, taking a nice little shank to the stomach. And I'm like, you know what? No, when you get into a fight, you best understand that it's possible that you are going to get an eye cut out after you hit someone in the face with rocks times. It's possible.
Yeah, he did go too far with the bastard comments, though.
He fucked around and he found out.
When you're a kid and somebody's been repeating that shit around you all your life, you repeat shit without always knowing what it means. And even if you do know what it means, you may not always know the implications of what it means, or, like, really get it. That's what kids do. I would like to absolutely clarify, this is not me defending Aemond. Aemond is a little shit, and he's on my shit list, and I will put him in the shit pile that the dragons made, full of dragon shit. That's where he belongs. However, little kid logic, can't say I disagree with him. Now, if this was Aegon dropping the bastard comment, I'd be like, that's almost an adult. That one knows what he's doing. You know, whenever Alicent does it, I'm just like, fucking guy. When Chris Pratt did it last episode, I was like, you deserve to have your face crushed by my strong man's. What a handsome man's. Why didn't he stay more?
One of my favorite back and forths from Game of Thrones ever was with Tyrion. When Tyrion meets Jon Snow, he calls him a bastard. Jon Snow gets all like fucking weirded out. And he's like, "Oh, did I offend you?" He's like, He's like, do yourself a favor and just wear it like a badge of honor, so that way it can never be used against you." That's a piece of television advice that I've taken the entire time ever since I saw that scene. If someone want to fucking say shit, I'm like, yeah, sure, go ahead, whatever.
So then he gets his eye sliced. Like you said, fuck around and find out.
Yep, found out.
Mm-hmm.
And we get into hot take number 6, knives out. Because nothing brings a family together like a good physical maiming.
Hell yeah.
Everything about this scene was just like, Jesus Christ, what is going on? This isn't in any sort of specific order necessarily, but the shouting children arguing with each other about who did what was just like grating on my nerves, because I'm literally picturing my nieces and nephews doing that because I've seen it happen, because there are 5 of them. So there's a lot of little kids just shouting and arguing, and we never do actually get the full story.
It's sad in such a hilarious way, because like when kids like that fight like that, you never will get the full story. Even if they actually sat down and everyone said their point of view, you still would not get the full story.
That's why I loved the way Viserys handled it. He was like, "All right, everyone just fucking apologize and we're just gonna fucking move on with it. Look, I got 4 kids, dude. I've been in that situation."
Manny, what if your kids chopped out your other kid's eye?
No, I mean, they haven't done that kind of damage. I mean, they've done some damage, just not that permanent, just some scarring and stuff, but
it makes me think of like my mom and her little brother fighting, because my mom has broken both of her elbows because of her little brother.
That's crazy.
Kids just be kids. And did you know that if you fight on a bed and then you push somebody off the bed, that somebody might land wrong and break an elbow? Or if you're racing bikes and you like throw shit at each other, somebody's bike might bounce wrong and you might break another elbow?
My sisters and I are all super fine now, obviously, but as teenagers, dude, we were brutal with each other. Sisters are usually worse. So
this is why I don't want children. They're scary, okay?
Exactly.
That's how you.
This is why I'm glad my stepchildren are so far apart in age that nothing like that will ever happen.
This is how you lose an eye, by having children. That was the first mistake.
Yep.
So we never get the full story. Meanwhile, Allison went off that deep end last week, and now she is tying bricks to her own feet or something, because wow. Just going to go through the litany of things that happen with her in this scene. She hits and screams at her oldest son, Aegon, in front of everybody. She straight up calls out Laenor's absence, saying he must be off entertaining his young squires.
Oof, yeah.
She demands of the king that he mete out justice after he's already said no and just wants everybody to calm down. And then she grabs the dagger to do the thing herself. So she is about to go attack and maim a child, and has this physical altercation with Rhaenyra. And the only reason she kind of comes to her senses is when she cuts Rhaenyra's arm, like slices Rhaenyra's arm open. And Rhaenyra's right. Alicent looked so bad here.
Yep.
The part where she's just like, now they see you for who you truly are. I'm just like, damn, girl. How big Rhaenyra's dick was right then.
Yeah.
Like, damn, up until now, there was always this moment of like, Alicent, I get you. And it wasn't until, obviously, I hate Alicent. Alicent can die. She fucked up first. She knew what her father was asking of her when she went to see the king like that. And she could have told Rhaenyra that her father was making her do this, and Rhaenyra would have been upset but gotten it, because her father also makes her do things she doesn't like. It could have been figured out there. But the moment where she is like, please maim your 6-year-old for me, because that is even, I'm like, what the fuck? The other thing is, I get being a mom and being so illogically upset that your kid has gotten hurt like this, and like wanting some sort of reaction and being upset with Viserys for not doing anything. Because Viserys, while he was technically correct in the spirit of what he was trying to do, he was again a wet blanket, and a useless wet blanket who was just flopping around and being like, I will make no one happy. And she was right to want something more, to want the kids to be punished, to want something to happen. But the minute she was like, maim your child, maim your grandchild, maim my grandchild, technically, that was the moment where I was like, I lost her completely. Even last episode where she goes off the deep end, when she finds out what Creepy Finger has done for her, she's horrified because that's not what she wants. Like, she still has that goodness in her at that moment. But like in this episode, like when she asks for Luke's eye, that's like the moment where she like has fully broke and fucking
Yeah, that whole scene with her was really off the chain because it's like the kids definitely deserved some kind of punishment, right? This was the scene where I really identified like King, right? Where I was just like, because you have a bunch of kids, they're all telling different stories. It's like, you know what, dude? Fucking whatever. You guys and they just fucking apologize to each other and fucking forget about it and let's fucking keep moving, right? He lost an eye. Okay, well, somebody fucked around, okay? And that's where this is what fucking happens. Okay, now you learned your lessons, right? No one's gonna get any more eyes cut out. And if it happens again, then yeah, I'm gonna fucking take my one good arm and I wanna fucking start spanking asses, right? But with her, man, I mean, she really, yeah, she just kind of like went off the deep end on this one. You really like, look, I've had people bully my children, okay? And believe me, as much as I wanted to taste their blood, you know what I'm saying? It's like, bro, in the end, that's a kid. Leave the fucking kid alone. And with her, it's like, dude, you want to take out the eye of a fucking, and then asking her fucking knight to do it, like, also, that's even more fucked up. Go do it your fucking self, woman. You're gonna fucking tell your fucking knight to go take the kid's fucking eye out? Fuck that shit. I didn't like her in that scene. You've always kind of like felt for her. And I didn't understand the fucking thing with like Otto also, where he was all like, oh, I didn't realize you had this kind of fucking like shit. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, you're a sneaky son of a bitch. And she was being like a belligerent, crazy person. You know what I'm saying? These are two completely different frames of thoughts here, dude.
I think it was mostly that he didn't think she had it in her to fight for her children that way. And it maybe didn't happen the way he would have wanted it to. But at this point, he's also been dismissed and brought back in. So his sneakiness and his ideas about how to go about things might have evolved in the time frame between when he was dismissed and now.
Yeah.
I think for him, it was like the huge contrast of seeing his spineless daughter have a spine, even though it was a crazy spine. It was still a spine. It was a batshit insane spine. He was like, you even had a spine? I'm so sorry.
He's gonna have a field day with her now too, right? Because now he knows what she's actually capable of, and he's like, oh, now I'm gonna fucking, I'm gonna be the fucking wind behind those fucking sails and watch her do some real fucked up shit now.
At least we did get at the end of this whole Knives Out family drama, Eamon's infamous, I may have lost an eye, but I gained a dragon line. Nice. Also, I gotta agree with him and good old Otto. More than a fair trade, especially as it's frickin' Vagar. He wins, he gets Vagar. So, last but not least, hot take number 7. Welcome to our TED Talk on how to unbury your gaze.
Yeah.
So, I want to just kick this off with, here's the thing. It did not show Rhaenyra straight up asking or telling Daemon to kill Laenor. So my question is, did Daemon decide to spare Laenor of his own accord, or was there further conversation between them after the fact, or did he just know that wouldn't be what she really wanted?
So I have a hella strong opinion on this, which is it was her plan to not actually kill Laenor, because I think especially in the scene that they just had when Laenor is like, I have truly fucked up and I am going to show up for you and I am going to try again and I'm going to do it right this time. I think her turning around and being like, yeah, no, just kill him is it's against everything she's shown us. And like, she's the one who extended the hand to Laenor. She's the one who brought up geese and ducks and roasts. We do know one thing. It's that Rhaenyra and Marjorie Tyrell, they're holding hands because they're the only true allies in all of Westeros.
I really feel like she did not have him killed. Like, she went up to him and said, hey, I'm going to give you the perfect out. out of this, right?
Mm.
Like, because that's the kind of person that Rhaenyra comes off like to me. They were really like the perfect couple. Like they were just like, hey, we can do our own thing. Like you want to do this, go do this. So the fact that they even had that in place wouldn't make sense that she would just go off and kill him. It would make more sense to me that she would sit him down and say, hey, look, this is what I want to do, and this is what's going on, and check this out. We can fake your death, and then you can go run off with your guy. That just seems more like Rhaenyra to me.
Regardless of like the other shitty things that she has done and like the way that she's lied to Alicent up until now, and like, you know, the like vaguely like sketchy shit that Rhaenyra has done in anything, there is nothing in her character to say that she would behave this way to Laenor.
Yeah.
Because Laenor has been her ally. I think the other thing is that like the sort of like over the audio overlap that you get of it over top is when the fight starts, Daemon says, and Rhaenyra's like, you know that what our enemies will think of us, and Daemon goes, we will know the truth, but our enemies will always wonder. And because that is like sort of framed as being in their initial conversation, what I took that to mean is that that conversation was had with the implied undertext of Rhaenyra being like, he's not actually going to die, and Daemon being like, of course not, we would never do that, but our enemies will wonder, but we will know the truth. And that's why when Laenor showed up in the end, I like rewound and watched that scene with those two again, and I was like, yep, this was the plot the whole time. And I also had to rewatch because I had a moment where I was like, it was a blonde that killed that random dude in the hall, right? Because like at that point I was just like, why is Daemon just killing a random dude in the hall? Like, go off, I guess. He hasn't done a crime this episode, so sure.
Yeah.
And also that poor random dude that just gets his neck snapped. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong skin color. Sorry.
And you know, it was probably like the end of his shifts too. And he's like, fuck, finally, man, I gotta get home and like feed the kids.
I loved that scene so much because it did exactly what I hoped this show would do for Fire and Blood. Because I'm a fake fan. I've read portions of Fire and Blood, but I haven't finished it yet. And I have read the Wikipedia extensively. I'm a fake geek girl. Don't worry about it, kids. The one thing that I very remember standing out to me was the fact that the only thing you know about Laenor's death is that him and Laena die very close to each other time-wise, because Daemon and Rhaenyra get remarried 6 months after both of them have been dead. I remember that. And I also
6 months, not like a day.
Not a day. Not quite. But so I also remember them saying that he had a feud with his boy toy at the time, and they were down like, and they started fighting, and the boy toy kills him, and then Corlys pulls out like a reward for the boy toy's head, but like nothing really comes of it. And the Maesters are like, and yep, he died. And that is what we know. And that's like what like the canonical history says about what we know. Then there's also like the speculative part, speculation that is noted in the history as speculation that Daemon had him killed to marry Rhaenyra. They managed to put this together. They like fit all the puzzle pieces together in the perfect way to make it both coincide with the book exactly, but also give your little space here for Laenor to go be free, which is amazing, because the only thing that really pissed me off about the show up until this point was the way that Joffrey died, because I get their whole reasoning. They want a dramatic wedding, but there's no way that a guard will get to just randomly murder a whole ass dude in a wedding and still continue to be a guard. That makes no logical sense. Kristen Cole straight up hate crimed this guy on the floor, and it was terrible because it is bury your gays in the most traumatic of ways. And that was my biggest frustration with the show. And they redeemed themselves in my eyes by giving the gays their happy ending, even though poor Joffrey is forever buried, but his boy toy is happy now.
I just really hope that Laenor does get to just stay across the narrow sea living his life and not come back as future characters who might look like him. I'm not saying anything more about that, but
the history doesn't mention him again. I think if the show tries to bring him back in any way, they'd be shooting themselves in the feet, because they did something very, very well here. They did the exact reading in between the lines with like the subversive like plot twist that we want to see. Like they did that writing here and they executed it damn near perfectly.
When they showed Laenor getting into that boat at the end, I was like, wait a minute. He looks super familiar. Yes. You see Carl getting in the boat, and then it focuses on Laenor, and I'm like, Oh shit, he shaved his head.
Yeah, I
Ah!
really like that scene when he gets in the boat and they like show him, man. Like, how good was that? The only thing I looked at my television and I was like, "Look, dude, happy trails, friend. Happy trails. Just good luck." I
Live
was
your
so
life.
happy. Here's to a good life, man, and just live long. It was really awesome to see that. And yes, in that same instance, I really hope I never see him again on television. You know what? Go give him his fucking. Everybody else, we all know what's gonna fucking happen. It's Game of Thrones. Everyone's gonna have everything's gonna get fucked up. Just let somebody just have the fucking happy ending there, you know?
He's Arya, right? He's sailing west of Westeros or
Yeah.
something. I don't care.
Or
I don't care where
something.
he goes as long as we never see him again, and I mean that in the best way possible.
Yeah,
Yes.
because I really I like his character. I love his character. You
Mhm.
know, I love the actor. It's fantastic. But this is one of those, man, I really don't want to see you go, but you gotta go. You just never come back here because they'll probably take your head or
I was dreading this episode this week. I had a lot of anxiety about watching this episode because I knew he was going to die. And I expected we were going to see him and Carl fighting and like slowly devolving and seeing their relationship get shitty and rocky and like see that fall apart and then see him get brutally murdered by his lover. Like I was fucking dreading it. And having it happen this way instead, it was everything I could have hoped for without hoping because it's Game of Thrones and why would I ever hope?
Well, and it didn't help that even leading into the scene, you don't know for sure until the end. The way Damon approaches Carl in his black hooded cloak, fucking Kermit the Frog,
yeah.
Palpatine quote.
Darth Damon cloak. Like,
Oh man.
every time
Nice.
Damon goes to do something bad, that's how you know he's going to do something he shouldn't do, is because he's got this fucking black hood.
He's got the Darth Damon cloak on. I ship Laenor and Happiness and Laenor on that tiny ship. And I maintain that the absolute funniest thing about that scene was just everyone being so okay with Damon committing random crimes that we didn't even think it was suspicious that he just randomly cuts a dude's neck in the middle of an unrelated scheme. And we're just like, yeah, okay, he does that. Okay, Laenor's dead. Cool. And then it isn't until Laenor shows up in the boat that I was like, oh shit, it was the scheme.
Schemey McSchemerson Damon over here.
Oh yeah.
In
Oh
his
yeah.
Darth Damon cloak. Whatever. I'm just glad Laenor didn't die. I'm happy about that.
Me too. Like, just bless him. I'm fucking glad that he's just out of there. Like, you just getting the fuck out, dude. I love it. There's gonna be at least one survivor from all this bullshit, and it's fucking him, and I love it.
Let's do our favorites roundup. So the general rule with our favorites roundup has been Nami as guest gets to do more than one thing. Manny and I are supposed to only do one thing, but really I think that's impossible. So I'm just going to kick it off by saying my favorite thing was mobile igloo sighting.
Yeah,
I'm
God.
kidding.
I'm
kidding.
I saw that, I was like, here we go. We're gonna be talking about this igloo tonight. I guarantee it.
Seriously though, why is that mobile igloo there? Is it also on the ship? I'm so confused about the mobile igloo's mobility. But that said, I'm kidding. Honestly, my favorite moment was Alicent and Rhaenyra going head to head, and Rhaenyra eyeing that dagger the way she did, because of course it's that dagger, and just the whole like everybody sees you for who you really are. And as somebody who has dealt with a good amount of personal drama in my life, particularly kind of recently, I was just watching this being like, everybody sees you for who you really are, Allison. Sucks to be you. That said, that is my favorite moment / scene. But if I went with my favorite plot point, obviously it's them not killing Laenor. So what about you, Nami? Favorite things?
Yeah, so obviously my favorite thing about this episode was the Laenor decision. The decision itself, the build up, the execution, the fake out, everything was honestly, it was perfect storytelling in a fantastic way. And while it doesn't erase the shittiness of how they did in Joffrey, it does make me feel a little better and like less hurt by that, and it makes me feel very, very happy. My other favorites would include just Helena's web. She's just hanging out with the spiders. Love that for her. And I also loved that you got to see the kids bonding, in that you got to see Jace and Luke getting close with Rhaena and Bella because they're step siblings now. And it's just really nice that we actually got to see them bonding before that, which also leads to the assumption that they continue to bond more, because you don't just stab a boy's eye out and not talk to a bitch again, you know? It's a bonding moment. Also, drunk Aegon in the corner just sparked a lot of joy because Aegon, he is so not about this on like a visceral level. Alicent is like full on tiger momming him, and he's just like, I just want to drink and masturbate.
He just wants to have his fun.
This is a tough one. Look, I know Damon's an asshole, but the part where he like cracks up at the funeral, I'm sorry. Look, there's certain things. Look, I'm sorry. It's funny. Okay, I know it's not supposed to be, and it's a fucking funeral. So number 2, him telling Otto in so many words to go fuck himself. Fucking beautiful. God, this is going to be a lot. This is going to be 4 of them. I'm sorry. So,
how dare.
Okay, so just like you said, Rhaenyra and Alicent going at it, perfect. That was awesome. If I had to sum all of them up to one thing, I would probably say that one, because that was really fucking awesome. And then again, Laenor getting away at the end. It was just nice to know that someone is going to have a fucking semi-reasonable good life compared to the rest of these fucking nut jobs.
In fairness, Damon's giggle and now they see you for who you are objectively like amazing. I just also picked my shitpost moments because I suspected that y'all would pick real ones and I'd be like, yes, I agree. Those are also mine. So now, joke's on you. I got like 10.
As we close out the episode, we just want to give a shout out to our Heroes tier patron, Tommy of the TKOK Podcast Network. Thank you so much for supporting us. And thank you to Nami and to our listeners for joining us for Hot D Takes. Manny and I will be back next week with a new guest to cover House of the Dragon's 8th episode, The Lord of the Tides.
Thank you for listening to the Geek Saga Podcast. If you like what you heard, please check out other Geek Saga entertainment endeavors, including the Sagas and Sass webcast and podcast and Ice and Fire Con.